Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another edition of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. Today, it's just me and Brandon holding down the fort, but we're happy to be here and excited to chat as it gets ramped up to the opening fixtures weekend. Not the best news going into the weekend, but before we get to the Zubimendi disaster class, Brandon, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I've been pretty busy, so I just I'm able to curb my disappointment in the summer signings because I haven't been able to follow as closely. But still, it's been a wild summer of pretty much nothing. When put in the grand perspective of everything, it's just a wild summer of nothing happening.
100%. Yeah, I feel like we've just had like the rug pulled out from under us. Like they've been saying, oh, like August, which makes sense. It's like post Copa America, post Euros, just give us some time to collect ourselves, make the big bid, and then news came in. I was pretty excited, stuck down in South Carolina with the Hurricanes, but I was like, hey, at least, maybe we get a new signing by the time I get back to LA. But yeah, how are you taking the news though, Brandon, of the collapsing of the Zubimendi deal? Like, what's your overall feelings about it?
It's really frustrating. I think Zubimendi was a very excellent target. I think he was pretty much one of the perfect targets for what we wanted. Like heading in, he's the six. He can. I mean, he's been excellent for Spain, excellent for Sociedad. Um, it just was. He seemed like the perfect player. It's, I guess, reminiscent of last year. It was Casiedo last year. It was like coming in. It's like, oh, here we go. This is the perfect player for us. And then not only does he reject us for Chelsea, but we're also playing Chelsea like 2 days after he decides to reject us for Chelsea. So it's very similar last summer, where it's just very deflating heading right into the season as it's the week of. Um, Especially this late in the window. Are we really going to identify anybody else? Because it seemed like that's who we pinned all of our hopes on, which is part of the transfer policy I'm not a huge fan of, where it's like we have to have the perfect player and there's nobody else. It's like there's obviously we've seen that Chouameni, we've seen that with Casiedo, we've seen that now with Zubimendi. That it's we have to have some form of plan B. Like it has to develop. I'm not sure where it develops from, but they have to start thinking about a plan B.
I totally agree with you there, Brandon. Exactly like you said before. It's not like it hasn't happened in the past, like the Chouameni deal and then the Caicedo deal. It's like, why haven't we learned at least or had something lined up in the back? Like even if I don't know, like even if Zubimendi, no, maybe like I guess the thing that we're reading is that he gave us the go ahead, or he gave the club the go ahead to that he'd be willing to join. And then I don't know, I guess there's debate over like the finagling over the deal. Maybe we didn't pay the release clause right away, so there was time for Real Sociedad to convince him to stay. But like I guess we'll start here. Comments I think brings it up well. First off, why am I? Thank you for joining in tonight. Anybody who has any questions, please throw them in the chat. We'll be happy to bring them up. It's just me and Brandon tonight, so we'll be going to the chat a lot. First off, as much as Xavi had his moments, the few that they were, I did like him as a player. I liked his fight, but definitely not way past his prime. But this going back to the question with Real Sociedad and FSG, really. Rabona Red says, why do American sports fans all hate John Henry and FSG? So piggybacking on that, Brandon, do you think it's Henry and FSG or the Liverpool board, so to speak, Edwards, Hughes, behind the scenes? Do you think this is their fault the deal went through, or do you think the rumors and the news around Zubimendi saying that he was willing to join has just totally blindsided us?
I think it's the blindsided. Like that, I don't think this is an FSG issue or Hughes Edwards issue. This seems as like a player that loves Sociedad, loves playing for Sociedad, came up through the system, and really had a hard time deciding if he wanted to leave that behind. You can't really fault that, especially when we hope that's what Trent decides to do. Obviously, we're at a bigger team than Sociedad, but still at the same time, you can't really fault anybody for not wanting to leave their childhood club. So I don't think this is an FSG issue. There's been times in the past where it has been an FSG issue. I think we all joke about it in the chat about where's that $110 million that we were going to spend on Sociedad last year. That like all of a sudden we say we don't have money, but it was like, where's that $110 we never spent, or $110 million, I should say, not $110. With the why do American sports fans hate John Henry and FSG? I don't think it's much of a hate here, at least for me. I do despise like most American ownerships because they do put profits over performance for the most part. But at least with the footy across the way, like, you have relegation and promotion that keeps them honest. Whereas over here, it's like, you reward really bad ownerships all the time with high draft picks and better placement and free agency and stuff like that. But really, I don't think this is so much a policy breakdown as more just the player really kind of struggling with the idea of leaving his childhood club. I think that's the biggest thing about this whole thing, is that they were kind of blindsided. But we can go back to different ones, like deciding to replace Luis Suarez with Mario Balotelli. Like, that's probably the all-time worst decision ever. After they did have a plan B, I guess, with Alexis Sanchez saying no. It's like, okay, well, Mario Balotelli's the guy to go get. Or we used to have Roger saying we should get Benteke, and everybody else saying, no, we need Roberto Firmino. He's like, no, we don't need Roberto Firmino. He's a wingback, which was absurd. But yeah, I think this is not so much an FSG issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, I understand the hate, especially when we've shown we had, or at least it seems like we've had money in the past. But I still, like, for me, it always comes back to the Hodgson years. Like, I've seen Liverpool go through some really dark times, and the previous owners were Americans, Gillette and Hicks, and that was god awful. So FSG came in, Klopp really brought it up. So you can debate whether or not it was all Klopp or FSG, or how much a percentage you want to give for the success of Liverpool during those years. Do I think that more investment could have gotten us more titles under Klopp? Probably yes, but at the same time, it came down to like 1 or 2 games per season when we lost out to Man City or Real Madrid in the final. And I don't know, it's tough. You're splitting hairs at that point. Do I think they need to invest more? Yes, but for me, I'm going back to, again, or this season, just as an example, Manchester City have only bought 1 player. I think it's us at the bottom with no players, and then Man City is 19th in the league, and I think they only spent like 22 million or 32 million on Silvinho, something like that.
Yeah.
But that's about it. And I'm thinking of Arsenal last season, all the money they spent and still didn't take on Man City. So I think it's a bit more complicated, but I'm definitely not happy with the lack of investment this summer, especially when Endo's, like you said, the not having a backup option after we've been burned, and especially after Endo came out and said he wouldn't mind somebody being brought in. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of comments in the chat now. I'll try to bring them up now. John Santos, expectations have gone from challenging to fighting for third. Brandon, we'll start there. Where are your expectations for the season? What is a successful season, and do you think any signings would have changed those expectations?
I'm kind of with John there. I think the expectation would be kind of in that third range. Maybe the weight of the sanctions against Man City can maybe get them to start wobbling a little bit, but it doesn't seem like anything really wobbles that robot. So, I mean, I don't know if that can really expect that. This really does kind of seem to be maybe Arsenal's year, as much as that kind of disgusts me to say. This is kind of, if they don't do it this year, they're not going to do it. But I don't know. I think third would be, I mean, it's successful, but it's disappointing. I do think if we get somebody like Zubimendi in, but that's not the only sign that would, if we get Zubimendi in, it doesn't make us title favorites. But it does solidify us as a definite challenger. I think we could still definitely challenge for a title this year. I mean, with our offensive capabilities, we can outscore anybody. Hopefully we fix the idea of going behind 1-0, like putting ourselves up against the wall every single game. If we stop doing that, we'll have a much better chance of challenging. Because even if we get Endo going, we get McAllister, I don't know. It's just, I want to say champions because that's what I always want to be. But I don't 100% see us really being a title challenger. I think it could be just like last year, where we're kind of just a couple players away, but we need still like a backup right winger. See somebody else mentioning that in the comments. Salah's getting older, running down his contract. We need another left back, I think, or a left center back or something in that line that can kind of play both those positions. Defensive mid was kind of the key. We talked about it last year. We're still talking about it this summer, and it seems like it's still not going to be fixed, which is a massive issue. But yeah, I think third place is kind of where the expectation is kind of for me shooting for. I think we could challenge a little bit or definitely push those teams, but I don't really see us having the depth in certain key areas to really push us over the top.
Yeah, that's hard. I agree with you on a lot of points there, Brandon. One of them hurts me to say, but could be Arsenal's year. I have that kind of feeling as well. That's one of the clubs I hate the most. No disrespect to Arsenal, but it's just a club that rubs me the wrong way. But yeah, I try to keep my red tinted glasses off, but it's hard to not believe. Like, I truly like one of my favorite Jurgen Klopp's quotes is like "doubters to believers." I think that was pivotal to the team achieving their success under him. But yeah, it's hard without the red tinted glasses to see us challenging. Even if Man City slip up, I think Arsenal have made up a lot of ground. I think Michael Watson in the chat here was talking about, do you think the signings, if we go through the transfer window without any transfers, that means we're allowing teams around us to catch up? We need to be moving forward and not standing still. That, I guess, is the fear for me, Brandon, is that, like, out of nowhere, a club like Arsenal, who have invested heavily in the last few years under Arteta, they went from being a joke of a club to, while still being a joke and not winning any trophies, they're pushing City and we aren't. And that is a huge slip up. And I think it could have been avoided had proper investment been made a little earlier. Then that's being said, you had the Edwards not there, like that whole debate with Klopp, who do you want? You can't really pull out, the threads of that sweater and see what was what. But I'm going to bring this up. Hi to Gary. Thank you for joining us again. Liverpool need to get one of these sixes: Ederson, De Jong, Kone, Orton, ASAP. Brandon, do you think this is a necessary signing that has to be made in the summer transfer window right now? Number 6. That list is a very good list. Do you think it has to be made, and which from that list would you pick if so?
I think it does. I think this is something that, like, we talked about it last year. Like, we needed a 6, like a pure, like, kind of maybe like destroyer. Endo definitely filled that gap very well, especially early in the season. But like, obviously, Endo is a little bit older. He's a little bit more limited. He's definitely at a ceiling of what he can do, and he is a very good squad player. But we need somebody who's going to take that role and then grow into that kind of what was Fabinho, where he was just the absolute kind of one of the best, the absolute best in the world for a while, or Mascherano before him and stuff like that. We need somebody who's going to take that role and grow into one of the best in the world. Of the 4 there, like Wharton would be great because it takes a homegrown spot. We don't have to worry about filling, all the non-homegrown spot fills. Age, that'd be great. Ederson would be my other one. De Jong, as great as a player as Frankie de Jong is, I don't trust that ankle to take one more tackle before it explodes again. Kone, I feel like I didn't, as much as we heard him last season, I don't hear anybody else kind of really screaming about him anymore. I'm not saying anything bad about the player. I just don't hear about it as much anymore. But of those 3, it'd go Ederson, Wharton, Wharton, Ederson, then a little bit of drop off, Kone, then quite a big drop off. Because also besides that, I don't think De Jong is going to go from the 600,000 or whatever he makes a week to a reasonable level. Anything. I don't think he's going to take 150,000 after taking that much money. That'd be quite a pay cut, and I don't think most players want to do that. You don't want to do that in your own job, so I don't expect a player to do that either.
Let alone change your commute from the Camp Nou to Liverpool, Merseyside. But yeah, I agree with that. The hierarchy minus, I'd switch Ederson over Wharton, but I do take your point of Wharton with the homegrown talent. I'm curious to see how that develops moving forward with outgoings. But yeah, I'm stuck on the fence. Like, I think we need to get a 6 at this point, just because of what Endo said earlier, saying that he wouldn't be object to like another number 6 coming in. I think that says a lot. I think the fact that there were rumors about Slot not having a place for Endo in the team also says a lot. I think you're putting a lot of pressure on Gravenberch and McAllister, and potentially Basetic, and I don't want to throw Inyoni up in there as well. So I think it's stretching. Like, it feels like this is the first season where we don't have a lot of injuries, knock on wood, going into the season. But it could be one of those ones where if like McAllister got injured, we'd be looking at the lack of a sixth signing just as mind blowing. So that'd be the reason why. But I'm wondering, like, I feel so good about the preseason friendly games that I'm wondering if we make it to January transfer window and then reassess there instead of panic buying. But I don't know. Let's go to the chat and see if there's anything else to move, like bring back some positivity. Let's see.
Not the most positive time as a Red fan.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple weeks. Michael Watson again saying if we can get at least 2 signings, I'll take it. I'd take 1 at this point, but 6 being primary. Rabona Red, 800,000 a week salary for Frankie De Jong. Yeah, he's chilling on that contract until it runs out. But I'll go with this one. Michael Watson again. A couple years ago, we were ahead of Arsenal, but lack of spending over the past few windows, we've had to sell to buy, and I'm sick of it. We also need squad depth. Brandon, how do you feel about the past few seasons and the lack of investment in the squad? We finally saw the midfield revolution. Last summer with Szoboszlai coming in, McAllister coming in, Endo coming in, a big change, kind of forced change because of Henderson and Fabinho. But do you feel like we're always lacking in squad depth, or do you think the argument of youth coming up or not hindering youth progress is a worthy argument?
It's a good argument because we got to see Kwanzaa come into the team last year and really thrive. Even though it looks like Bobby Clark's out the door, which, I mean, that's a whole nother argument that I could have about. I don't understand. I think the biggest issue with the lack of investment is that it's something that everybody could see. Like the year that all the midfield got hurt, or a couple years ago where we're definitely a midfielder short. It's like we need midfielders, and they didn't sign any of them except I even forgot his name, Arthur, on like the last day for loan. It's like nobody's on the radar for that. Nobody's on the board for that. That's not what we're talking about. It's like we were 1 or 2 short going into that season. Then we had the year where Van Dijk got hurt, Matip got hurt, Gomez got hurt, and we had to play Fabinho and Henderson as center back partners, and Nat Phillips and Reece Williams took us to the Champions League, which is still the biggest, maybe the greatest miracle of any manager's achievement in the Premier League history, is taking Reece Williams and Nat Phillips and getting to the Champions League. But we knew going in that season we need another center back. And didn't get him. And then I know some people talk about after we won the Champions League, we only got Sepp Vandenberg, Adrian, and I think Harvey Elliott was our signings, which I always kind of countered. Like, then we still walked the league. Wasn't that we didn't really need to tool that team up, but there's been times when all of us can see we need positions. We've been saying we need somebody else in that forward line on the right-hand side behind Mo, which I understand the issue is that Mo wants to play every single game, and it gets pretty, upset if he doesn't get to play every single game, no matter if it's like a Europa League game in the middle of a country that no longer exists or something like that. I mean, he wants to play every single game. I get that, but we have managers, coaches for a reason. They have to sit there and say, we need these guys. These are guys that are going to help you after you come back from the African Cup of Nations, not fall off a cliff like you have the past couple of times. Like, this has kind of been the issue, is that we can always see it as fans, and it's still not being fixed all the time. That's kind of been the big issue, is that's, I guess, just repeat myself. Like, we can see it. How can they not see it?
Yeah, it's been baffling. I mean, I totally agree with you, Brandon. I think for the midfield refresh was baffling. The center back issue was baffling, and still not one we really addressed. Just kind of got lucky with Kwanzaa, and I think for me that's the frustrating part. like arguments probably like with the way the clubs run, we can't pull a Man City and have like everyone on the bench earning 150,000. But when you, as you said, when the glaring signs are there, um, they haven't been addressed, and that's been an issue. And honestly, it's like we don't know whether it's was Klopp preference, if it was uh, FSG budgets, all that. It just seems just so muddied water that it's hard to pick it apart. But it's clear, as you said, like there's moments where we've needed signings or revamps and we haven't got them. I guess CJ coming in with the chat. Thank you for joining and thank you for your comment. Again, thank you everyone who's joining in the chat and commenting. We really appreciate it. Keep throwing in your comments. We'll bring them up as we can and address them when we get a moment. Word is John Henry is potentially in talks to purchase Boston Celtics, NBA champs, in the range of 5 to 10 billion. I think his attention is elsewhere, unfortunately. I've heard those rumors as well, and I hope that the division of duties from Fenway Sports Group would leave Liverpool in the position where John Henry is not the one overseeing everything. I don't know if that would affect our budget, but as Brandon and I have been talking about, it seems like there is money there. If we were ready to activate Zubimendi's clause, that's 60 million right there. Caicedo from last year. It seems like money's there. Can understand the FSG out situation, but I just don't know at this point. I want to keep believing in the team and am happy for the trophies that are won. But when we do slip ground up to other clubs potentially overtaking us, it is understandably frustrating. And I do feel that, but do like to try to remain optimistic. But Rabona Wood, I'm pulling up a comment back here. Slot wants a number 6, like a Zubimendi or a Varela, not an Endo. Brandon, bring up another comment here. Gravenberch. We'll start gearing towards discussing potential starting lineup against Ipswich with the start of the season this Saturday. How do you feel with Gravenberch as one of the DMs in the double fit?
I like Gravenberch a lot. I'd have to, I guess, kind of, like I said, I haven't watched too much. I've been doing school stuff all summer that I haven't really got to watch any of the preseason games. But I like Gravenberch a lot. He's a very classy player. He takes the ball well. He can progress the ball. He passes the ball well. He does a lot of things very well. I think he is somebody, especially with his size, that you could kind of mold into a very, very good number 6. He's still at the age where you can still mold him into something else. It's just we're going to have to also rely on him to do that and grow in that role while also chasing top 4, chasing, hopefully, being in a title race. We're going to have to ask him to do, progress at that role very quickly. That's a worry for that. I think he could do that job. I really think he could. His size, his length, his athleticism, his technique, I think he could really develop into a fantastic number 6. But you're asking a lot of him, just like we've asked a lot of players in the past without investment, to do more than really they need to kind of fill these roles and fill these gaps that we're leaving ourselves short during the summer or during the winter without signing anybody. I like Gravenberch, but it's just, that's a lot to ask of a player.
Yeah, 100%. I think, that's why I feel like for me, like getting a Zubimendi in now seems like the perfect time to throw someone in. Like you might need to get him up to speed, but at the same time, everyone's getting up to speed under Slot. It's not like it's years of Jurgen Klopp and then somebody's got to learn his style and system while everyone else is just smoothly sailing in that system, knows it like the back of their hand. It's like everyone's getting used to and adapting to Slot's style of play and his systems, his formations. And maybe that is an opportunity for like a player like Gravenberch who hadn't featured regularly under Klopp to, grab this, by the horns and stake a claim and get into the side. But yeah, it's a lot of pressure to throw on somebody with arguably not too much depth, especially if we, like we were saying earlier, if McAllister gets injured, something like that would be detrimental. But I think, I'll pull up this comment. I think it was a while back. Let me just double check. Bear with me, please, viewership. It was something about the Diaz and Gordon rumors, because that threw me for a loop when I checked my phone in a break on work today and saw that Manchester City had bought Luis Diaz. That freaked me out for a moment. But Rabona Red, would y'all be happy to lose Diaz to get Gordon? Brandon, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat for that one first.
I mean, you get younger. You do get younger getting Gordon in. I like Diaz a lot. I always feel like he gets a little bit too much kind of shit from fans about, how he plays and stuff like that. He's like his ball carrying last year, I thought was key. Like whenever we were really kind of humming, I think it was right around February, right before he like fell off a cliff. He was one of our best players. I feel like he kind of gets a lot of shtick when he doesn't need it. I do like Diaz, but I do like that idea of refreshing, getting younger, especially somebody who is like grew up a Liverpool fan. I would love to see him score against Everton. It would be beautiful. It'd be a beautiful thing, especially like a last minute winner like Mane, all those years ago, like his first season, he scored that winner on a rebound off of the post from like Sturridge or something like that. If he scored like a 94th minute winner at Goodison, chef's kiss. It'd be beautiful. But it's just not the move that we need at the moment. So it's like, it's not one that's occupying my brain. Like, oh, if we can do this fixes everything. It kind of just puts us maybe slightly better in the left-hand wing. We'd probably have to pay higher wages because I know Louis on kind of really low wages still, comparatively for most players, like of his ability. It's just not something that's super on my radar to really get invested in because we really need to be focusing elsewhere.
Yeah, totally agree with that last part of that too, Brandon. I feel like it's just like a side dish, one that we don't really need to eat. We need the main course, number 6. But yeah, Diaz has like really ramped it up in the end of the preseason, scored some goals, and I think when he's on fire, it's hard to touch him. I think his end product was one of the worst out of like Gakpo, Nunez, Salah, Diaz, Jota. Diaz was the worst last season, despite having the most minutes. Definitely a hectic year for him, so I don't want to put too much pressure on those stats. The same time, he is getting old in an FSG kind of model. If you could sell him and get a younger Gordon, I can see that it makes sense. It really, for me, would be up to the player. I think somebody was saying that Rabona Red, Diaz and his dad always seem to be mentioning Barcelona. I think it's more his dad, but
yeah, it's like I don't think Diaz really does. I know his dad is always constantly talking about Barcelona.
Probably again, rough commute from Liverpool if you're from Colombia, but yeah. So I think for me, it'd come down to the player. I do appreciate and value a lot of what Diaz has to offer, but I would be tempted by a swap for Gordon at this stage. But at the same time, as you said, this should not be the main conversation, which can bring us up to, I think, let me see. Sorry, chat. Struggling to find this. I think I lost in the chat, but that's okay. Moving on. Oh, here's Michael Watson. I'm not going to lie. When I go on Google, the most searched is LFC transfer room for rumors. That is because we are an aggregated news channel where we just take all the news around transfers from reputable sources, or at least somewhat reputable. We put that information in our tweets for the level of, I guess, journalistic integrity around the person who's quoting these rumors, these transfers. So that is why you get a lot of articles and tweets from us about transfers and rumors. So that being said, go back up to CJ here. FSG can save space if they can go get a Chouameni or a Camavinga. Just drop a peg on one of them. I would love to see that, and just throw out a random Hail Mary for you, Brandon. Either of these two, or is there anyone else, like absolute dream signing? Who would you drop the bag on to get them in?
Probably Chouameni. Like, he was the absolute perfect player when he was like deciding between us and Madrid. It was like this mouth watering. Like, this is the perfect player for us. Like, I want it so much. Kamavinga, didn't he get hurt today?
Oh, I did not see that.
Actually, today, like a knee injury. I think it's I'm not sure. I don't think they have anything, but I think it looked pretty serious. I think he may have done like a knee. But I mean, so he's only like 20 years old still, which is just absurd that he basically, well, that's the great thing about being Real Madrid. You get like basically free runs at players because they probably, anybody tries to come and is like, no, I'm going to Madrid. Like, they just stiff arm everybody, say, no, I'm going to Madrid. That they were able to just get such a free run at him. But Chouameni would be the guy. He would be the guy for me. Like, if we could just go get anybody, he'd be the guy to go get. Like, if money's not an issue, wages aren't an issue, like, no matter what money you give him, nobody's going to get upset about it. He'd be the guy for me.
That's fair. I would go with Kamavinga. Just really like his style, but not if he's injured. The Hail Mary here from Wamai is Calvin Phillips or Rabiot because he's free. I think Rabiot maybe like 5 years ago I would have been excited for, but post his mom starting the beef with the French squad, that kind of put me off. I can't say I would enjoy a mama's boy in our squad, and he is quite old. So, would you take? I'll skip Phillips from the equation, Brandon. But would you take Rabiot at this point in the season as our Arthur signing?
No, I would not. Like, he just he's been at two massive clubs, and he's seems to have left on not great terms at both of them. He seems to have pretty much diva in him, though I don't think he has diva level talent. Like, you put up with Suarez, you can put up with Mo, you can put up with certain players because of how good they actually are. He's not that level of player to put up with stuff like just kind of some of the stuff. I know he did it like PSG. He had to train with the under 21s for a while because he was pouting about something. Like, it's neither one of those are worth it, especially Calvin Phillips. Like, he's not really even a Premier League player anymore. Like, Leeds kind of just used every ounce of ability he had before getting their money from Man City, which good for them. Not saying he was a bad player. He was a really good player in his day, but he's already kind of past it. But yeah, Rabiot, no thank you.
No, totally understand that. And it almost seems like Phillips is like the Danny Drinkwater, the next version of that. I remember when Leicester sold him. He had a brilliant season with Leicester and then just ghosted at Chelsea.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm seeing in the chat.
I'm seeing some bring back Arthur Melo. Maybe he'll get some more minutes this time around for us.
Well, what would you say to this, Brandon? Get Gordon and Bruno Guimaraes in a package deal. We already talked about Gordon, so I'll bypass that. Would you want Bruno Guimaraes as the potential 6?
Well, he's more like an 8 style, like almost like kind of more in the McAllister kind of realm, the way I kind of view him. He could definitely play the role, but I mean, is that his best role? Or do we have the exact same situation we had with McAllister last year where we spent a lot of time playing him as a 6 when it's obvious he's a much better 8-10? Yeah, he can deputize and do the job there. But if you really want the best out of him, you don't play him there. I do like Bruno. He's a really, really good player, but I just don't know if it really fixes the problem permanently or if it kind of just creates more of we're kind of putting not so much a square peg in a round hole because he can do the job, but it's kind of in that same realm of just he's going to do it really well, but it's much better playing a different role. Gordon would be great, but like I said, it's just if you can get that 6 in, if we can go get Gordon, that makes it pretty much a perfect summer. If you can go get both those guys. Like, if you can go 2, I was saying getting a 6 and getting Gordon.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Eel 555. Something isn't adding up with this window. Something feels off. Definitely feels like a gut punch late in the window. Can definitely feel the kind of off quality to it. It just seems like we got sucker punched by the Zubimendi deal, and just kind of feels like we're reeling from that sucker punch and have yet to get our feet back under us with the season about to start.
Yeah, it just feels like it's like the weird timing because obviously Euros this summer, bringing in a new manager, new style. Like, it just never felt like anything lined up for this summer's business. Like we should have been able to overcome it, but it really felt like that was the issue, is that everything was just kind of worked against us in a way. Just like, we had the Euros, we had to wait for most people to get back from. We have a new coach. I would imagine he kind of wants to see everybody before he decides who needs to go and who can stay. Like, seeing Carvalho, which I thought maybe he'd earned a spot in the team with how he played in the preseason. Sepp Vandenberg, stuff like that. Like, seems like, well, maybe these guys can grow into this team. We don't need these signings or something like that. It just seemed like all the timing was off this summer.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It just seemed like a lot of obstacles to deal with, like you said. And then another one being why we didn't renew at least 3 of our players. Yeah, I think that one will be interesting. Trent, Virgil, Salah, I guess, in the wings there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that moves forward. Definitely will be essential for us to start the season well and be in contention for as long as possible while those contracts are being ironed out. Yeah, I couldn't imagine losing any of them at this point and having that news going into next summer. But we are yet to get to that point, so hopefully we don't have to talk about that much.
I see that Rabona Red talking Chelsea has a new coach and even more players and still signing people and stuff like that. You can't compare yourself to Chelsea. Chelsea is just complete insanity over there. Nothing makes sense about what they're doing. It's just throwing money at anybody and just signing them to what Cole Palmer signed, like a 9-year extension or something ungodly today. Like, he's signed through 2034 or something stupid today. Like, I don't want to judge anything off what Chelsea's doing because that's a bizarre world.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting strategy. I used to like Chelsea a lot with what they did with their youth development. I think they always had 20 players out on loan and would make so much money from selling those players. I was really, really smart business in the Abramovich years and was always jealous of their academy at that point. Back in the days of Jay Spearing, it didn't seem like we were bringing through that many quality youngsters, but
he's still there.
Yeah, he's doing a job. Got credit to him. But yeah, it's definitely a different stage now, as we talked about with the youth coming through. I think top prospects. I mean, Kwanzaa, Bradley. That being said, we can gear towards the starting lineup for Saturday against Ipswich. It's just Brandon and I tonight for this stream, so we probably won't go the full hour. But again, we really appreciate everyone who's joined this stream. We do the stream every Tuesday night that we're able to. Liverpool Transfer Room streams every single day. Check it out on X, Twitter. News and content for the fans. Definitely feels like a fan-led community. So again, we really appreciate everyone who joined tonight, and we'll try to go as long as we can. But before, we'll definitely cover the match against Ipswich before we head out. So Brandon, with that being said, who's your starting 11, and who do you think is going to be the star player?
Okay. Before I get going, Muse, it's good to see you as well. It's been a little bit. Obviously, Ali in goal. That's an easy one. Right back, you got Trent going. You have Virgil, I think Kwanzaa, Simi, because I think Robbo has a little bit of a knot going on right now. I think that's your back four. Your midfield, I guess the double pivot there, McAllister, and go Gravenberch. This is kind of a game if you're going to see if he's going to have it. Ipswich, is it home or away game? I can't remember.
It's away.
Away. I still think I think you can be confident enough that this team has enough to get by Ipswich away, even away from home, that you might be able to start seeing if Gravenberch has that type of work ethic in him, has the ability to kind of take that role. Maybe you start him at that other pivot role. Up top, Lucho, Harvey, Mo. Up top, Diogo Jota, who's going to, I think he's going to score 2 goals this weekend. I think it's going to be a 2-0, and I think Diogo gets both goals. I think he'll be the star man for the weekend.
Okay. I like what I hear from that, Brandon, and I'm pretty much in complete agreement with that entire squad. The only change I would make would be potentially Szoboszlai in for Elliott.
Mhm.
Just for the more physical presence. I'm curious, away from home at Ipswich. Haven't watched a lot of Ipswich at all. Caught some stuff from the championship when they made their run, and those highlights that were being compiled of their season into promotion. But I'm always thinking that the championship sides that come up, unless you're a Burnley who try to play tiki taka from the back, um, because you're a Vincent Company managed, but I feel like a lot of the lower or the promoted teams try to get that physical presence and try to bully teams. And at home, first game back in the Premier League, I think it was like 30 years or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
But
maybe like 2000. Maybe I think they may have had one season this millennium and before they went down. Let's see.
Yeah. But it should be a tough game, and that's why I'd want maybe Szoboszlai with a little more physical presence there, but definitely wouldn't knock Harvey starting. Be excited, whoever. But I'm excited for the starting lineup. The preseason has gone well. I think whoever does play has the capability of getting the job done. I think we're going to get the job done. Game's 4:30 in the morning for me, and I have work later that day, so I'm hoping we get the job done because that would suck to wake up, not get the W, and go into work right after. But Jota for your standout player, Brandon. I back that. I'm gonna go with Salah just because I feel like he goes off every first game of the season, although he did not last season. But that broke his goal for the goal each first game of the season trend. But let's see. How do you feel about Slot going into this game? I know you said you didn't see a lot of the preseason games, but I'm sure you've caught some highlights. And with just the results page, beating Man United, beating Arsenal when both teams had a solid squad out there.
Yeah.
Are you confident in Slot's ability to start the season strong, or do you think we're going to see growing pains going into the start of the season?
There's going to be some growing pains. I saw like the goal against Sevilla, the really one where we like kind of from the goal kick to the goal, a couple really good passes. Not to say this is the same level, but that's the way like Columbus plays. That's the team I follow in MLS. That's the exact same way they play. Short kicks, trying to draw defense in and hit with quick attacks, trying to draw in like the press, then beat the press quickly. There's growing pains in that system. I know there was a couple of fumbles with us. Obviously, there's much better players at Liverpool. But I think there's going to be some growing pains with this system. We might see the odd goal given up here or there early in the year. But I think he definitely has a vision. I like everything about him in terms of like the way he presents himself, the way he talks to media, the way he coaches on the sideline. It seems much more kind of Klopp had the rock and roll kind of fly by the seat of your pants sometimes, like that caused some chaos, which was wonderful to see and one of the most beautiful things ever. Slot seems a little bit more controlled. I think we're going to see some beautiful goals. I think our early run is a lot of the promoted teams, if I'm thinking correctly. We don't play a lot of, I think like last year we played like nothing but big teams. This year we're not playing as many big teams early. So I think we're going to definitely be able to get this settled in, maybe get those growing pains out before we start hitting those bigger games and more important games.
I'm thinking, I know Manchester United's third game this season, but big maybe on paper, historically. Hopefully that's the case. Don't want to jinx that or take them lightly because they definitely did smack us in the teeth at the end of last season. So can't forget that. Let's go into the chat now. We're seeing Robert Maguire 4-0 Liverpool. Rabona Red a little more cautious 2-2. Selling Carvalho now looks silly. Jamie's, I don't know if I agree with that just yet, just because we're pretty stacked in that position. Slot seem to be playing him on the left wing, or at 10, you got Elliott and Szoboszlai. But let's see, you want to see Jota and Gakpo start from Wamai. You lads, FS FSG in or FSG out? First off, Steve, our group, the LFC transfer window, composed of a lot of individuals, a lot of people on both sides of the fence. I'll credit that. There's a lot of FSG out in our WhatsApp chat lately. I would do FSG neutral, but if you're going to push me, I'll take a stand and say FSG in just because of what they've built with the club. I think they're definitely looking stupid now, and they have looked stupid in the past, but I don't know how much is to blame on them. Definitely, you could put lack of preparation or backup plan, but as I was saying way earlier in the stream, the Hodgson years were rough. The Gillette and Hicks years were rough, and I think they've got enough credit in the bank to get themselves out. We'll see. We'll see what Slot does. We'll see how the season progresses. But Brandon, do you want to answer the FSG and FSG out?
I'm pretty much the same as you. Pretty neutral. My issue, my thing with FSG out is who comes in. Like who would be able to get Liverpool and take us forward and stuff like that. There's people out there, obviously, I've never heard of that can do that. But I mean, I don't want a situation of what Chelsea's going on right now, where it's just a cowboy comes in and is playing football manager with the club and just signing anybody and nothing makes sense. And we're really set up to fail in the future, especially if some of those players decide I'm not taking a transfer. I'm going to sit on this 8-year contract until it runs out and can screw the club financially going forward. But like you actually watched the Hodgson years. I came in as a fan on the Hodgson year. That was the year I decided to be a Liverpool fan. So I came in at the darkest of the dark. So it was not a pretty time. So I've only really got to see, Liverpool at its best during the FSG years. So I'm a little bit more in than out. There's definitely things they need to improve on, the preparation, like having an idea of a plan B. There's not just one plan. Being a little more aggressive in the transfer market when we need to. There's things to fix, and obviously there's other issues. We talk about ticket prices or something like that, or we can talk about, I think when they came in, they wanted to rename Anfield. They've, done some things. Like the Super League, obviously, is probably the biggest one, but it seems like every time they do kind of go too far, they do listen to fans and back off. Like they do actually listen, as much as you really wish you don't make that mistake in the first place. They still do listen, but like I said, I'm more in than out.
No, that's fair. I think you summed it up pretty well there, Brandon. This will be the last chance to get in your questions, thoughts in the comments. And first off, Steve, we both said we were FSG in, so there you go. With that being said, any questions, please throw them in the comment window. We're going to wrap up the stream soon, but we'd love to answer any more questions that you have. Again, really appreciate everyone who's in the chat. Again, I'll just address this, Steve, again, one more time. Our chat is definitely divided so Brendan and I do not speak for LFC transfer window as a whole. There are a lot of people who are FSG out in the chat. To not politicize it, we're both FSG in, but that being said, we all want the same thing. We all want Liverpool to win. So however we get there, we'll see. The season's just about to start. I want to be positive. Again, FSG just don't listen to the fans about transfer or queer squad needs. They're deaf. Brandon addressed that early in the stream, how it's apparent that we need investment, and it's happened season after season, and that hasn't been addressed. Hopefully, we'll see. My game plan for, or at least how I see it, is get to January, see what Slot has and fully back him then and be prepared, whatever, to get the transfers that are necessary. I think that's the best scenario. Maybe we'll see a transfer or not, but I'm not seeing too many more questions in here. Rabona Red just threw one in here. Now the transfer window is closed for our club, pretty much closed. When do you think we'll have our first signing under our Slot? January or next season? Do you think we'll squeak one in now, Brandon, or do you think January is more likely?
To be the devil here, technically we did sign somebody. We signed the kid from Chelsea, we signed the kid out of the Chelsea Academy. So technically we've got our first Slot signing. I'm actually waiting for maybe like Virgil's contract to expire. Then we sign a new contract with him, and that'll be technically the first signing under Slot is re-signing Van Dijk after his contract expires, and they'll unveil him like a new signing. I don't know. If we don't get anybody this summer, I still think there's definitely a chance of us getting somebody this summer. It's not over. It's not over. I think there's definitely somebody. Maybe it's a loan. Maybe not somebody we're going to be super excited about. But I definitely see us getting something in over the line here this summer. But I think the first real maybe game-changing signing wouldn't be until next summer. Like if we're not making the move. January moves are tough to pull off. Teams have ambitions. Teams are in different areas of. And then obviously I think the last few winter windows have not been super busy for most teams. Like I expect a lot of movement from teams last winter, and like hardly anybody made any signings. It seems like the summer's when almost everybody gets their business done. So I don't really see us doing much in the winter because we don't really do much in the winter, do we? I'm trying to think. It's like Virgil.
I always remember Coutinho and Sturridge as our big ones. Suarez, I guess, right?
Yeah, that was like over 10 years ago. So it's not our like relevant like policy, I guess, anymore. Like really, I can think of like obviously Kabak and who was the Preston lad that we signed for no appearances? Ben Davies. I think it was Ben Davies. I think that was as well. So like we don't do that much business. So I think if it might just be a loan signing this summer, which will be very sad and won't make me happy. Won't make me like, oh, FSG's done the job here. But it definitely will. I think it might be next summer before we see big signings, and that's very frustrating.
I hear what you're saying, Brandon. I'm gonna try to stay positive.
Cody, we signed Cody in the winter window, so I'm dumb. My bad.
It's been far and few between transfer wise throughout the years, but a deadline day contract extension for Big Three to smokescreen lack of signings. We'll see. I'll take that for sure, but definitely hope we get someone in. And as we close the stream, one of the things that we're doing this year is Fantasy Premier League opening up to anyone who wants to join. I'm going to throw that code to join in this chat now. So, Brandon, I'm not sure if you're in the Fantasy Premier League this year.
I am not.
Okay. Well, if you want, I'll be in there, and a lot of the panelists and hosts from LFC Transfer Room will be there as well, so you get to compete against us. I'm not sure if there's a prize or not at this point, but you definitely can come into the chat and clown on us if you're beating all of the hosts and panelists from the LFC transfer window. So please join if you like Fantasy Premier League. Definitely excited for the season. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I guess getting the right manager is the most important thing. A top manager can turn lemons into lemonade. I think that's what we're hoping on right now. I think new people at the top can give you a lot of energy for the players. It seems to be a lot of positivity from amongst the squad. We'll start wrapping up here. We'll end it with Brandon. Goal prediction for this weekend's game against Ipswich. I know you said Jota big, but give us the score line and the goal scorers.
I'm just going to go 2-0. I think Jota gets both goals. It might be where he's not the star performer. It might be the classic Jota performance where he does nothing and then pops up out of nowhere and scores 2 goals, and that's all he does all game, but it's the most important parts of the game because that's what our Diego does. I think 2-0. I think that would be a very good score line. I think that'd be an excellent start to the season, like just kind of getting us out the gates under Slot, especially putting all this behind us of this past week, this misery. I think maybe the goal, because I don't think Clark has moved yet. Maybe that'd be a nice silver lining that maybe without Zubimendi come in, we don't sell Bobby Clark, who I rate extremely highly. I don't want that to happen. So maybe that can happen. Fingers crossed, but who knows? I don't know anything. I think 2-0 will be good.
Okay. I'm going to put a little extra on there. I'm going to say 3-0. Salah 2 goals, Jota 1 goal. I have Salah as my captain on the first week. So, but honestly, any win to get us out of the gate, I think wins are important. However you get just getting in that habit of winning. And if we could start the season with a win, that'd be perfect start. However it happens, minus no injuries. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm throwing for my red tinted glasses prediction. But we'll wrap up the stream now. Brandon, thank you again for joining. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No closing thoughts. Keep red, never walk alone. Remember the words of Klopp. Sometimes, we got to keep believing in this club, keep believing we're going to move forward. I think we have the right manager in place to continue to move forward. So don't get too reactionary to, not getting business over the line. We can definitely compete with this squad. This is still a very good squad. This squad that did finish third last year. And we talked about at the end of this transfer window last year, we weren't really supposed to compete last year as much as we did. So, kind of keep the faith, keep it calm, keep it civil. It's Liverpool. It's the greatest club in the world. No matter how bad it gets, it's still Liverpool. It's still the greatest club in the world.
I totally agree, Brandon. We all want the same thing at the end of the day, Liverpool winning as much as possible. Again, thank you everyone in the chat, everyone who's watched. We really appreciate everyone tuning in. If you do like the content, please like and subscribe. I only like saying that at the end of the stream because the point is for us to connect with you throughout the stream. But if you want to come back, liking and subscribing helps. Again, we just appreciate everyone who joined the stream, and have a great night. Hopefully 3 points this weekend. All right. Wow.